Welcome, everybody. I'd like to open this up to the Drainage Trustees meeting. We need approval of drainage claims.
We have a informational meeting with the landowners.
Oh, sorry. We'll start out with our informational meeting with the landowners on DD 36 lateral C.
So the reason that we called this meeting is because there's some procedural things that didn't fall into place because of a communication error. Anytime that in accordance with Iowa Code 468.126, anytime that you do work, the trustees are authorized to authorize a repair provided it is below $50,000. If we get an estimate that is above $50,000, Iowa Code requires us to hold an informational meeting with the landowners and also get an engineer's report, which typically can be in that $20,000 to $30,000, depending on the size of the project. We received a estimate for this repair of cleaning out DD 36 lateral C of $48,700. So $1,300 below the threshold that would require an engineer's report. The contractor went out there, started the work. Initially, I think that thinking that, okay, we can just scoop out the bottom, but it was obvious that that had been done in the past. Therefore, the walls are not at the proper slope. And so you're going to end up with sloughing again. You're defeating your purpose of the clean out. Jump in if I'm getting this wrong. And so it's a reshape of the ditch because of the previous dip outs. And then of course, any of the tile outlets that come into it, that typically requires repair. Sometimes they're bent, sometimes they're corroded. And then of course, riprap underneath any of them that don't dump out onto the toe of the ditch. During the course of this, there was some communication between Henniger Construction and Rick, who was the supervisor that this is in his district. But there was not a clear communication that it was going to go exceed the $50,000 to the amount that it did. When that became aware, it was put on the agenda and brought to the trustees to get an engineer's report, at which time I said, that doesn't make any sense. The work is almost complete. This would be an undue burden to the landowners to pay for an engineering report that we already know what the fix was. We've already got it's in process right now. And so since then, we've had more information come in on what the total amount is. Courtney, can you tell us what the total amount is today?
The total that we had as of December 30th, 2024 was $83,912.50. There was an estimated 30 hours of dozer work that was left and 200 ton of riprap, with the estimated final total gonna come in at $96,187.50. Plus it will be an additional cost for seating that is estimated to be $23,400.
So, obviously when all of that came to light, hey, we need to talk to the landowners. Again, Iowa Code would require us to get an engineer's report. But again, that doesn't pass the common sense criteria, at least for me. And I think I would have a consensus of that, to go out and spend an additional, I don't know, $20,000 to $30,000 for the work that's complete. I mean, an engineer's report would serve no purpose at this time. But also to now, in the rears, of course, to notify the landowners of, what the work, what it entailed and what the total cost was gonna be. Again, all of this should have happened before, the project. But again, going on the best information that we had at the time. So that's where we're at.
There is drone footage available on the county website under the drainage tab that shows the open ditch being flown for this area. That is what we went off of to see all the work that needed to be done. That's how we found the repairs that, for all the sloughing and everything. I believe, Dan, you guys also flew that after you guys got done. So we'll have the comparison to be able to see what it was beforehand and then what it was after they completed their work.
And again, I don't think that there's any, I'm just not disputing the work that was done or the quality of the work that was done. There's been conversations with several of the landowners, that farm abutting the lateral C, and, I have not heard any complaints, concerning that. But again, the proper procedures were not followed. Comments or questions from you? Yes, Maureen.
Comment, the clean out is not due so much to sloughing as it was to silting.
Okay.
We have an extreme amount of silting with that ditch anymore, and, it's gonna be, this is done now, probably will not show the silting. I just want you to realize that.
But that was the reason for the extensive overrun of the estimate, was initially thinking that they could go in there and dip that out. But again, then that left some slope with all of a sudden this, I don't know what that would be but it would be almost a 90-degree wall, which just leads to sloughing. Normally they ask for a 2-to-1 slope.
There's a lot of sandy soil in there, so that's where we're getting the riprap that will off the place.
Okay.
So what we did, instead of just a dip out, is what we call it too, we pretty much went and did a total restructure of that dredge ditch. Because at that point, we couldn't hold the bank, so once you start digging, and then the next day you come back and she sloughed in.
Right.
We had too much weight and, the sandy soil, so.
So that was the reason for the information, was to inform the landowners of what happened. I don't have a fix. I don't have a magic wand that I can go back in time and do it properly. We have addressed with the contractor, the requirement for communication in the future, so that this doesn't happen again. We do have an outstanding work request on, lateral 3 of DD 36.
Yes.
Which is to the north, in the northern part of DD 36. That has not been started yet.
A lot of city water that comes in right there. Is there any cost associated to, the city as far as?
There is, they are on the,
Classification.
classification, thank you. The city is on the classification. Yes. So the portion of the city that drains out through the 36 lateral C, they are assessed. And I forget how old that classification is, but again, if we were to have it, typically on a big project, you would, if there isn't a separate classification for the lateral, the Iowa code now requires you to separate that out in a separate classification, which has additional cost. Again, lateral C has already been, it has a separate classification, so that has already been done. Yeah. Yes,
So I have, fertilizer and anhydrous on both sides of the ditch that, you know, where I'm affected. Now it's covered with, you know, several feet of not very good dirt. My yield's gonna be affected next year and probably years to come. What recourse, if any, do I have on that? Reimbursement on fertilizer costs,
there,
pipelines when they come in and disturb your soil, they pay you for the loss, 50% the next year, 25% for the following 2 years.
there,
That seems like something that should be dealt with.
there is a procedure for damages, that would be under damages, and again, that is a cost to, the drainage district. I guess, first of all, my recommendation from, serving on a a watershed management, group, and being a farmer that has filter strips, my first recommendation would be a 90-foot filter strip along it. I think that that would also help us with silting in. It's not gonna help from the standpoint of the silt that would come from the city, and from that area, but it would help to stabilize the banks, I do believe. And it's a relatively attractive, price that they pay. The last ones that I put in was $300 an acre. So, again, that's each individual farmer's choice, whether they want to farm up to the bank edge, or if they would prefer to have filter strips, particularly when you have surface inlets that feed into a ditch. And I'm not certain, are there surface intakes?
Yeah.
That lead over into this ditch? So anytime you're farming up close to something like that, it's gonna silt in quicker. So a short answer, Dave, yes, there is a process for being reimbursed for damages. Those damages need to be, I would have to review the code to see when they need to be, but there is a time limit on that, claiming the damages and what, documentation that they would require.
And outside of the easement,
Pardon me?
and outside of the easement.
Yes, and outside of the easement, there would not be any damages, that would be paid. The easement is typically, 75,
50.
50 feet from the edge of the ditch. Again, another, I'll put in another kudo for filter strips. I like filter strips. I think they're good for drainage, systems too.
Now, that's my only part of the dredge ditch that doesn't have filter strips. And where I do, I don't see any difference in what cleanout's been done in the past and how fast it's silted back in. And so yeah, they're good for the federal owners, but I don't see it making much difference in the dredge ditch. Not on that bank when it slopes away from the ditch. So, you know, the filter strip's not catching anything that's running into the ditch.
They do keep the dirt from, you know, you got black dirt, and you got windy days, that soil that we removed on the side slopes that makes the weight, or, you know, if I want to explain it that way, is from it blowing in. I mean, there's at least 3 foot for that total slope.
Okay.
So I do believe in them, I'm gonna stand behind them.
Well, again, we're not here to argue
Yeah.
the merits of filter strips, but, the purpose is to inform the people who are paying for the project what's happening with the project. And if you guys tell me, hey, we want an engineer's report because we don't think that this was done right, we'll go out and we'll spend $20,000 or $30,000 more. That doesn't make sense to me.
They will tell you it's done right, I guarantee it. So,
I'm not questioning that. Yes, Larry.
Okay. Who's gonna pay for that?
I was then sitting in his shoes 25, 30 years ago, a job with Dow's. We went $2,500 over the estimate, and the estimate was 20,000. I didn't know how they were gonna do it, so they settled that I had to absorb the 2,500, and they go ahead and pay this like normal. But how you're gonna do this job, I don't know. But I was responsible for overdoing it. That's what it amounted to, so I had to pay the $2,500. But this all was done 30 years ago, so the cost is that it's a little different shoes they're in than I was. But somebody's gotta pay for this, one way or the other.
Agreed, currently, the landowners would be assessed that cost. The total cost of the project. Warren,
What percent does the city pay then?
I'd have to look at the classification to see. But it's broken down by parcel.
They are the problems that we have with sillage.
There is a large tile that runs behind your house, John, that dumps into the end of the ditch there, and that's, yes, sir, that's correct.
I think it's 54.
Okay.
How many total acres are in drainage district 36? Do you know off the top of your head?
See,
That classification is in your folder, Dean.
It is.
Yep. 1,681.44 acres roughly.
I do not have the classification
May have been in your packet last week.
last week.
Dean. It's right there.
Oh, the class.
All right, go ahead, read it off if you've got the information.
The acres are roughly 1,681.
There's 95 tracts that encompass 30 landowners of that 1,681 acres. Yes,
I have a question. It's a little off topic from the dredge ditch issue, but they're behind my property where that tile runs that you guys just said it was a city that runs there behind my place and John Holmes's place. Is there any way we can tie into that, put an intake in for back there by us, by the DOT? Because all the taxpayers' rock that's sitting there flows into my backyard and it's like a swamp back there. So nothing of mine drains down to that dredge ditch anyway, because is there any way that an intake we put in on to stop that flow from coming down and just making our place a swamp?
you have the right to access that tile. That's why you're part of the classification.
Mhm.
You have the right to drain into that, yes. Can you change the flow, the natural flow of water?
We don't need
No.
to change the flow, we just pretty much need intake down there on the, would it be on the DOT's property? It'd have to be there on that, where all that water comes down, it doesn't seem to affect carpenters or anything like that, where they got all that grass, but they're behind the DOT where they got that big empty lot, all that water just flows down pretty much from the DOT's
Onto
yard,
you?
and it comes down to us and then through 70's yard, and then tears all that up, and Scott and I will, we both kind of fix it, but then it just gets, as soon as you get a heavy rain, it tears it back up, and then the yard's a swamp.
Yeah, I mean, that would require coordination between the landowners in order to to fix what you're talking about, but could it be done? Yes. And you have the right to access that. You're paying for that infrastructure to be there. And you have the right to drain into
So
it.
how do you go about doing it? I gotta talk with the DOT?
Well, is it gonna happen on your property?
Probably not, cause it has to be before,
Okay.
cause it's how it just flows down.
Right,
You
then
have
you
to
need,
stop it before it got.
then you need to talk to the landowner whose property it's on, where you would access that tile,
Okay.
you know? And you can come in and talk to Courtney to find out, you know, the closest location, or the approximate location of it. And then, of course, they can typically, depending on how deep it is, whoever does the work would come out and locate the tile and install the intake for it.
Okay.
Do we know what percentage of the city is of that thousand?
I think Courtney's doing the math right now.
The city has 188.8 acres roughly in this
Okay.
classification,
So 100 and what? 80?
188.
About a little over 10%, would be the cities, or not necessarily the cities. I don't mean to say that. The property owners, you know, each property owner pays into DD 36 if they have access to that, or if their land drains on it.
So if I'm calculating this correctly, a little over 10%, the city will pay a little over 10% of the total bill.
Correct. City landowners, yeah.
City of Clarion.
Well, the
City
city
of
itself has got
Clarion.
that much. Okay,
Yes.
okay. That's what you were calculating,
Yes,
was
the
the
city
city of
of
Clarion's calculation.
Does that count the airport?
Pardon me?
Does that count the airport?
I don't know if it does on lateral C or not. I'm not.
Is the airport under the city of Clarion, titled under the city of
Yes.
Clarion? Then yes, it does include it.
You know,
I don't know what parcel the city, the airport is, but if that's in the drainage district, which I think it is.
any other questions, Courtney? Any other information that we need to cover?
Not pertaining to this specifically. If any landowner would like to, the Iowa law has changed for drainage and they have added in that we can send out unofficial, requests or information for drainage meetings and different things like that. You can fill out this form that I have right here on the corner of the table and we can send out an email, with any of the information like this letter that we mailed out to you. We still have to send out the actual letter in the mail, but we can also send you an email on it as well. So if you're a snowbird and you're not at home, when a notice or something gets sent out, then you can at least get it in your email as well.
Any other questions?
Where do you go from here? What are the next steps?
The next steps are completing the project, which would be
It's gonna happen
Let-
in spring.
leveling the spoils. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, it'll be spring. We ended up pulling some dirt out that was along that dredge or along the road because there's not enough room there to spread. So we hauled that off. I did not include that, did not charge anybody for that. Cause then in return, we'll end up selling the dirt.
Okay.
But we had 2 days on trucking dirt out along that road ditch. So other than that, in spring, I'd say there's, I haven't been out there because we just got back last night and, they didn't want me. So I'd say a day left, maybe 2.
Okay.
And then we have the riprap, which is included in that. Placing riprap and then fixing some tiles, yeah. So
And then
not
hydro seed.
complete, but
And then seeding.
yeah, and then seeding, so it'll be spring. So
Did that answer the question, John? Would you like more explanation or?
Well, I mean, I just wonder, you're gonna do this, my quick calculation had the project at about $125,000,
Okay,
give or take, which is 75 over.
yes, sir, that's correct.
So that's quite a large increase. I just wondered what's gonna transpire next? You're gonna finish the project and then I assume you'll adjust assessments?
That
over
is.
a period of time?
That is part of why we're having this meeting, because those decisions should have been made when we knew that it was gonna go over $50,000. Number one, do we hire an engineer to determine the extent of the work that needs to be done? Again, that doesn't hold water with me. We can't unding the bell. It has been done. It has been rang, excuse me. And we can't undo that. I'm just trying to inform you all, what happened and give you, the explanation of what happened.
And we can still get an engineer's report if we have to, but it'd be off the drone footage.
There's still gonna be 30,000.
Yes,
The
and there will
third
be-
of what I built for this whole job, and I've been out there over a month and a half.
Yes, there'd be another
That
30,000
doesn't make
on
sense.
top of the
That makes
125.
no sense.
I don't want an engineer's report. Rick.
And I guess that's one thing I'd wanna know, do you want an engineer's report?
No,
No,
Good.
Okay, that's a consensus.
Any other questions?
Are we on the hook for the whole bill or over the 50,000?
You are on the hook for the whole bill right now. Otherwise, we're talking about legal proceedings. Again, the work was done, and I think that it was done to the specification that it would have been done if all of the things would have fallen in place and we would have paid for an engineer's report. You know, I'm not questioning the work. But again, if the landowners want to pursue that, you need to tell the trustees that you want to pursue that. And then there will be obviously legal costs concerning that. And I'm talking about you all saying, no, we're not paying for anything over $50,000. That's $75,000. We want to argue that, that we shouldn't have to pay that. And then, again, that would be between the trustees and the contractor, and which would incur legal fees. And those legal fees are paid by the district. Again, I wish I had some good news to tell you. I don't have any good news to tell you, except that we screwed up the whole communication on this and the procedures that should have been taken.
If we'd have stopped at the point that we were at, when I met with Rick on it, you know, and showing him the problems and the issue that we were having, the engineer would have come in and charged another 30,000, right? And he said, proceed. And then he would have did the same thing that I'm doing to tell me that what I got, you know, what we were doing is correct, to keep going. And now we got another $30,000 bill. So.
That's also good news, we don't have an extra $30,000 on top of this.
I'm estimating 30, but.
No, I
I'm guessing
understand.
it's
Yep.
30 grand, you know.
Yep.
What started the project in the first place? Was there a complaint or was it?
There was repair request for sloughing in the ditch. Sloughing, and there was also some tiles that outletted into the ditch that were broken down.
Had that ditch ever been cleaned up before or not?
It has,
12 years ago, we cleaned it. Only from, well,
go ahead, Maury.
when clearing into the Haggies, we never had that problem, but when you add that much to the west of Clarion, that the water runs directly off of it, it don't take it long to get out there.
They're black and
Okay.
white, but
And that's part of the issue. And we're not gonna cure that, because that creates silting, and
Right.
that's what it is, so. It's just one of those things you have to do.
Okay, again, as a trustee, my apology, for this not falling in place like it did. Again, that's why we're having this informational meeting, is so that you all are aware.
And I do have pictures that we took from the drone footage, that are going around, so if you'd like to see them, you're more than welcome to. If, you would like to see them at a later date or have them sent to you, you can come up to my office in the auditor's office and I can email those to you. Like I said, the video is on the website and that is where these stills came from.
Yes.
How do we avoid this type of situation moving forward?
Well, basically, anything that's gonna come in my opinion, upwards of 40,000, we're gonna have to look really close at possibly putting an engineer on it. As much as I hate to say it, which is gonna put additional costs of 20 to 30,000 on it. Because in all reality, we should not go over the 50,000 without engineer's report.
Well, without a landowner's meeting, and then it would be up to the landowners to determine whether or not we get an engineer's report. We have the authority as trustees to do something up to $50,000 without informing you. That's written into Iowa code. Prudence would say, again, like Rick said, if I had this to do over again, we would have had this meeting when we received the bid for $48,700.
And we would ask you at that time, do you wanna get an engineer involved in that?
Right.
Cause it's gonna cost you another 20 to 30. And the contract annuity is doing, as all of them do that we have do work. I'm not saying they know more than engineer, but they do, in my opinion. I'm not saying engineers are a waste of money, but yet I am.
According to the Iowa code, if a project, a repair is going to exceed 50,000, the board must have an engineer's report and conduct a hearing.
So we have to have an engineer's
At
report.
one, what landowners will be brought in.
I would conduct the hearing before I would have that be the landowner's decision.
It's not a choice, it's a must.
I would do it that way.
Like
Right.
we did like an upper 40s
Bob,
bid.
Did you or any supervisor look at that when you got the bid, other than the drone pictures?
Yes,
Rick did.
yes.
I did not.
And I looked at it after he got started too, as well.
Well,
It needed to be done.
there's no doubt about that.
You could visually go out and see what he hadn't touched, what was going on. Basically, the banks went down and then dropped.
Everybody-
and everything was pushed.
The procedure that was.
Yes, sir.
being said, that's, you just should have had, this meeting should have been done 6 months ago or something.
Yeah, well,
You know, 'cause you got, it's classified, right? I've worked on that stuff, as long as the city is classified, included in that on lateral C, because
They
I
are.
got one that we are on big 3. I'm paying for stuff that haven't been Big Wall Lake,
Yeah.
because that's how it's set up. These guys could have, I would recommend too, that you talk with Courtney, because she's a gem on, we have so much stuff that people don't even realize is on the website. You can sit right in your living room or your office, whatever, and you can look up everything, tell you, put it in different colors, the tile that goes through your place and everything. And, just go to Courtney, she knows it all, that's all I can say.
Any other questions? Did I answer your question?
Yeah. If we get really bad flooding spring rains, how bad is the sloughing gonna be with the bare dirt on the edge? That's kind of my concern.
Well, depending on what kind of rain, but that, it could happen. I mean, there's no guarantee on it. You know, so when we got the quote for the hydro seeding, that, it was explain that to him over the phone, he has not come and looked at it. I mean, they can change on that, but I don't know, it's gonna take a month for it to, take off, for sure.
My guess is we'll have to go out to shelter areas before the hydro seeder was there.
Yeah.
So then another thing is when these ditches are coming up for work orders, unless there's feet on the ground, all we're doing is going by the air and looking at 3 foot tall ground. So how do you know until you get out there and start digging? Which, even with an engineer, he's not gonna walk it. And there's no buffer strips, so you can't get in there real look at it.
I think most engineers will probably want it. I know that
I'd be interested to see, I guess, I'll say, I'm not gonna say we don't, I'd
Yeah.
be interested to see, because there's no buffer strips and everything's farmed to the edge. You have to watch the ditch or walk the ditch fence to see.
that's correct.
So I don't see a lot of people in today's society taking that effort, so.
Is this gonna be due in a one-time payment or is it over time or?
It depends on the amount, that is assessed to the landowner. I'm trying to remember what the threshold is. Anything over $500
Per track.
per tract can be spread. And if, typically we do it, either 5 or 10 years, as I recall. So yes, it can be spread depending on, if it meets the threshold for the tract.
There is a 6% interest on that though, if you do sign up to waive it. But there is no penalty if you sign up and you decide that you want to pay it off sooner. You're more than welcome to do that without any penalty.
Anything else? Next item on the agenda.
Other
Go ahead,
question is,
I'm sorry.
will we be holding a informational hearing or a meeting, with the landowners when the project's not completion? For completion, does anybody want to have a completion hearing, when the project's over, just to hear how it ended up? I'm not seeing any heads nodding, so, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to approve the drainage claims. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good day, the letter.
Yeah.
Right?
Right ahead.
You all right?
Yeah.
So we just made a mistake. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I just.
You bet.
You did?
Thank you.
I did run away.
I saw that. It wasn't 200. It was $904 and some cents. It was 13.
I never called it.
It was 13,406. 51. So $906.51 total.
You can't believe it, right?
Oh, I can. Right there it is.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
So, did John Holmes say he would like to have,
He'd like to be informed of what the total amount is. And I think that we can do that. We could send a letter out to the landowners, what the total project ended up being.
Yeah.
Can you give us their assessments at that point too?
What's that?
Can you give us their assessments?
probably not, I mean,
No.
because by the time in May, if it changes, then they get really pesky about something, because they'll say, oh, the letter says this, but it might be close to May before the project's done.
Their
I'd
assessment
say-
that they're gonna get is for everything that they're being assessed for any work that was done, not just that one specific project.
Yeah, so if we do the lateral 3, their assessment, well, it shouldn't be included in that.
No,
It shouldn't be in both.
no, but if there was like beaver dams that were previously trapped in this lateral C, like earlier in the year, back in July or something, that would be included in their assessment. So,
Okay, let's proceed.
Approved drainage claims.
you had one claim that was, presented today, which was the invoice from last week, which was the postage for the, informational meeting notice that went out in the mail for today. And that was in the amount of $20.01.
I would make a motion to approve that.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
All ayes. Minutes from the last meeting, please.
Alright, minutes of the last meeting of January 6, 2025. The Wright County Board of Supervisors met in regular session as trustees of the drainage districts with the following members present: Rick Rasmussen, Dean Cluse, Lynn Lukes, Ashley Bosch, and Betty Ellis. Also present were Deb Lukes, Deputy Auditor, and Courtney Morris, Drainage Administrator. Motion by Rasmussen and seconded by Cluse to call the meeting to order. Motion carried. Motion by Cluse and seconded by Bosch to approve drainage claims for payment. Motion carried. Minutes of the previous meeting on December 30th, 2024 were read and approved with the correction of DD 36 lateral 3 changed to DD 36 lateral C. There was one work order that was reviewed and approved. Contractor estimated the repair to be $12,500. There was the work order was for DD 80 on the main on section 29 in Lincoln Township. It is for 2 blowouts on a 24 and a 22-inch tile. Morris presented the following drainage invoice, which was the Wright County Auditor for the postage in DD 36 lateral C for the amount of $20.01. Work being done by Henniger Construction and DD 36 lateral C was discussed. Cluse asked Dan Henniger why there was no notification when the repair went over the estimate. Henniger explained that they took the ditch back to a total restructure as it had previously been dipped out multiple times due to the sandy soil within the ditch. He also stated that he thought the amount at which he needed to notify the trustees was over $100,000. The work had to be finished. Henniger notified Rasmussen, and it was mentioned that the repair was going to go over the estimate, but there was no discussion as to how much. The trustees were presented an estimate from Central Iowa Hydro Seeding in the amount of $23,400 to Hydro C DD 36 lateral C. Motion by Ellis and seconded by Cluse to update previous meeting minutes pertaining to the repair being done by Henniger Construction and DD 36 lateral 3 to reflect the correct lateral as lateral C. Motion by Cluse and seconded by Bosch to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried.
Any additions or corrections? They stand approved as read. Orders.
We have no work orders for today.
Review and sign any open drainage invoices.
We have 2 invoices here. The first one here is from Mazdam Construction. This is for repair in DD 76 on the main relief, section 17 of Wall Lake. This is for a blowout that was reported by Jared Watts. The amount came in at $1,992.20. The second one that we have is also from Mazdam Construction. This one is for Drainage District 80 along the main, section 29 in Lincoln Township. This was the one for the 2 blowouts on the 24 and the 22-inch tile that was reported by Dana Wonkin. We had gotten the estimate from the contractor at $12,500. Their total came in at $13,406.51.
I was notified by this and about this and I've signed this claim. It was $906.51 over the estimate.
And the second one, you want Betty to sign that since?
Yep, she's got the original.
Okay, they've been signed. Anything else before the,
Motion to approve, signing the open drainage invoices,
I'm sorry.
just for the minutes.
all in favor? All ayes? Anything else for the drainage district?
That's all I got.
So I guess if we have an estimate going up in the upper 40s, we call it the landowners and say, if this exceeds $50,000, or we have to get an engineer's report.
Yes.
Pretty much. So that's our informational, hey, we're
Yeah,
gonna, we're at 40,000.
Going forward, if we're upwards of over 40,000, we may think about getting a landowners meeting to,
Just inform them that, hey, there might be additional
Yeah.
costs.
And the big lesson learned from this should be that if you're involved in approving one of these projects that doesn't require a engineer's report, that doesn't require a landowners meeting, to monitor the work as it's in progress, to have that open communication. I'm not saying you have to live out on the site, but a phone call, if he's been out there working for 2 weeks, a phone call to him to say, hey, how's it going and how are we in line with the estimate? So that we're ahead of this instead of behind it.
Right.
And if they tell you, contact you and let you know that it's going to be over the estimate, we might need to try and get specifics from them saying how much more do you believe this is gonna be?
yes.
Motion to adjourn as trustees.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All ayes. Okay, we will now be conveyed as Board of Supervisors. Oh, sorry,
Thank you.
sorry.
Where are these minutes that you just read, where are they on the website?
They will be under the drainage tab, under drainage historical minutes.
But they
At
won't
the
be,
bottom of the
they won't be there, Bob, until they're approved.
Okay.
Right.
So like the ones that we just approved will go on there. The minutes from this meeting would not be on there until they are approved.
Okay, I
Yeah.
understand that. Under the drainage historical,
Historical minutes and at the very bottom of the page.
okay, thank you.
Okay, I need approval of the tentative agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All ayes. Would you read the minutes of the previous meeting, Deb?
January sixth, 2025, the Board of Supervisors met as Drainage District trustees to do the minutes from the drainage meeting. See the Drainage District minutes on the county website. Chairman Rasmussen called the regular meeting of the Wright County Board of Supervisors to order at 9:19 a.m. Members present were Rasmussen, Luce, Bosch, Lukes, and Ellis. Motion by Ellis and second by Bosch to approve the tentative agenda. Motion carries. Minutes of the previous regular meeting of January 2nd, 2025 were read and approved contingent on correcting Board of Health member Carl Hegebold to Ashley Bosch. Approved claims for payment. Motion by Cluse, seconded by Bosch to receive the sheriff monthly revenue report. Motion carries. Ryan Bourbon with Assured Partners gave a health insurance update. The base medical premium has gone down by 3% for fiscal year ending 2026 renewals. Abesis Vision Insurance will be increasing by 3% for fiscal year 2026. The accident, critical illness, and voluntary AD&D coverages are in a rate guarantee and will not be changing. Bourbon continued to go through the wellness program structure, CareBridge Employee Assistance Program, experience and large claim adjustments, claims summary, renewal summaries for medical and vision, and the ISAC accident coverage to Voya. Adam Clemens, Wright County Engineer, gave an update on the Secondary Roads Department. Julie Edwards, Executive Director of UDMO, gave an annual update explaining what funds donated gets used for. UDMO is requesting Wright County's continued financial support of $16,000. The funds donated by Wright County will only be used to support individuals within our county. Supervisor Rasmussen then presented a letter from the Crisis Intervention Services requesting funds. The letter will be considered at a later time. Darrell Stephen Carlisle, Economic Development Director, informed the board that he was requested to fill a vacant position on the Heart of Iowa Regional Housing Trust Fund to represent Wright County. This will be put on next week's agenda. Motion by Cluse and seconded by Bosch to adjourn the meeting. Motion carries.
Any additions or corrections? If not, they'll stand approved as read. Claims have been around. Anyone from the public like to speak?
So you did a good job, Dean, on that, because in the drainage there, you just got ahead of yourself on that.
Yeah. No.
It was just a procedure that everybody knows it needs to be done. Bad timing for extra costs and stuff. But anyway,
Thank you.
I like the way you handle that, okay? Just have a meeting before it gets in trouble.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, discussion and act on drainage attorney appointment for 2025, and you have that, Dean?
Yes, actually, I expected Courtney to stay down here for that, but, we have been in contact.
Eric Ivy,
Say it again,
Eric Ivy.
Eric Idy, who is, his office is out of Ames. Again, Dave Johnson is, retiring from doing, drainage work. And so we have been searching for, an attorney that we are comfortable, with. There have been several recommendations. This one came specifically from Dave after I called him and told him that, that we had not been able to hire anybody yet. I've had a phone conversation with this Eric Eady. I have not met him in person, but I'm comfortable from the discussion that we had in appointing him as the drainage attorney for 2026. 25, 26.
I guess it'd be.
25,
Yeah,
because we do that annually,
right.
on calendar, annual. So, my recommendation would be to appoint Eric Eady. Do you remember what the name of the firm is called, Deb? I'd have to open up my email to look and see, I don't recall, but whatever firm that he's attached to, his rate is $300 an hour, which is comparable with, well, it's the same rate that, Dave Johnson charged us, when we look back in the records. And then, of course, he would also charge travel. So my recommendation is that we appoint Eric Eady as the drainage attorney for 2025.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All ayes. Receive quarterly revenue report from Wright County Auditor.
I didn't find it.
It's in your folder.
Okay, we have, $4.05 in copies, $30 in plat books and maps, fireworks permits none, and voter registration list none.
Motion to receive the revenue report, quarterly revenue report from the Wright County Auditor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All ayes. Review and act on appointment of Israel Riviera as a civil process server. And I've got that here.
Is he one of our jailers?
But he's got everything down other than me signing it.
Motion to, approve the appointment of Israel Rivera as the civil process server.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All ayes. Review and act on liquor license for Claremont Country Club pending dram. And we've got that here to sign. Out to the golf course. We just need approval of pending dram.
That takes effect when?
We really have, no dates on here.
There's the backside.
So their tentative expiration date is February 28th, so I was presuming
before
that
2026.
before that.
Okay.
This is
March
tentative
1st.
Effective date, March 1st,
Yes.
2025, and expiration date, February 28th,
Yeah,
2027.
Motion to approve pending dram.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
All ayes. Discuss and act on appointment of Daryl Stephen Carlisle to the Heart of Iowa Regional Housing Trust Fund. And he's already said he would do that.
Correct. This was from the agenda last week well, in discussion, it was brought to our, attention that we needed to fill this position, and they had approached you to sit on that. So I was making motion to appoint Daryl Stephen Carlisle to the Heart of Iowa Regional Trust Fund.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Uh,
All ayes.
And I will make a comment that on January 2nd, we had already done that.
okay,
So did you need what was the change, do you know?
Dana Wingard was the official representative at that point.
Pardon?
Dana Wingard was the rep at that point. They approached me after that meeting.
When we were going through the
Yeah.
appointments.
okay.
Okay, Adam, you're up.
So just a quick update, Blades, out last week burning ditches and cutting brush, very minor brush cutting, since we did such a huge project last year. On it, trucks were doing the same thing. 120 work orders were completed last week, so a lot of the stuff in the right of way ditches, 41 brush, 20 skid steer brush, and 49 ditch burns. We did receive 250 tons of our 500 tons allotted for salt this year, so hopefully we don't have to use any of it, but we have it still coming if we need it. I sent you guys a text last week. Sorry for the two text messages, but contractor had to change their date for the start date for Lost Quarry Bridge to the 15th. So that'll be starting hopefully soon.
That meeting has happened, and it's definitely that day.
Yep, we had a pre-con last week where they brought in all the utilities and the contractors, subcontractors. So they are closing it down. The only reason why they didn't start today was because their one call didn't have enough time to get done.
Okay, so we will they will close the bridge, and we will have the detour
In place.
Detour is already in place. We just gotta go turn the signs.
Okay,
So those have been in for quite a while.
and the projected completion date?
As of right now, when I looked on the schedule this morning was mid-July.
Mid-July, okay. Again, that's the bridge across the Boone River on C-70.
Yes, right next to the quarry, or the quarries. The nice thing is about them coming in early like this is they can avoid the Topeka Shiner. So anybody who doesn't know, the Topeka Shiner is an endangered species, minnow. So if they were doing any work between March or May 15th and August 1st, they wouldn't be able to do any work inside the stream or disturb any sediment. So that they should be outside of the stream or doing everything vertically and out of the stream by that time.
Excellent. Okay. Very good. And was this the same contractor that did the?
Nope, this is
No.
PCI, so
Okay.
Peterson Construction.
Okay.
So,
They do a good job.
yep, they do. Yeah. So I have, you have
With
any
that
questions?
rock, yeah, with that rock, salt. Are you obligated to take all 500
I
tons?
don't
Yeah.
believe so.
Okay, so,
If we are, we'll take it and we'll store it for next year.
yeah,
We'll put it somewhere,
okay,
definitely.
I didn't know if does
So-
it have to stay undercover? I wouldn't-
No, not necessarily, but we would probably find some tarps and, cause we have tarps left over from,
Oh.
that we can go ask co-ops and sometimes they have, ones that have holes in them and we'll just
Mhm.
cover it up. So it's what we've done in the past.
Okay.
Anything else for Adam?
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
We see you today or tomorrow?
Today.
Today. Okay.
Any old business? Any new business?
Any report on the compensation board, how that went?
Went good, but I have no report yet.
Okay,
I'll let you know at that time when it does come in.
that happened on
Thursday.
Thursday,
Yes,
Thursday,
Thursday at 4 o'clock.
okay? And who all sat on that?
Deb Vance,
Carol Hawk,
Chad Boss, Carol Hopp. The attorney used to be an attorney. from
Gary
Belmont,
Berkland?
Gary Berkland.
Mike Ewing.
Yeah, he wasn't here and Carl wasn't here. Katie Simmons, yes.
who did she represent? Auditor, okay. All right,
I went to the conservation board, Lynn and I went to conservation board meeting on Wednesday night and that was very good.
Good.
And, probably hear an update later on from tomorrow.
okay,
It was the first time that two supervisors showed up unannounced and uninvited in like 30 years, so we bring that to the forefront.
I've been there before. On
But I
a,
knew you were coming.
oh, okay.
I've been there
And you
before,
wanted something.
I've been there before too, but I,
If you're doing your job, why would I come?
what's that?
And you were goaded into showing up.
Goaded.
You were hard, you know, how come we never see you at the supervisors, or the conservation board meeting, and you know by who?
No,
Yes,
I do?
yes, play cards with him on Thursday night.
Oh. With that being said, I've been to a couple of them, and they're
I
very well
will say
run.
you were the only supervisor that routinely drives through the park in the summertime.
And comes out in the fall and does
uses the
a,
lake, yes,
does a run with you on what you've done
yeah,
and what you're doing.
yeah. And Lynn came out prior to taking over, and we had a good conversation for about
Yep.
2.5 hours.
And you're doing a hell of a job out there.
Thanks,
Glad to see you shave though.
I did shave.
Looks younger, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
20 years off.
He does.
You gotta lose that, those gums.
Any new business? We have meetings,
Budget meetings.
Wednesday and Thursday.
We have budget meetings.
Remainder
today,
of
tomorrow.
today
Yes.
and tomorrow starting at 9 o'clock.
We have new officer training Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah, we traveled to Des Moines on Tuesday evening.
Yes.
And I will sit in on the Board of Health meeting on Wednesday morning at 7.
And I have, this week, tomorrow morning, I have, economic development that I will attend.
Anything else before the board? And we'll do budget discussions right after this meeting.
Starting at noon. Right?
Well, there's,
Sort of.
there's some departments, and I haven't seen the schedule, so I'm not quite sure. The schedule. But
All right.
there's some departments, I don't know, like.
Andy, I think was coming.
I
Andy
mean, that we
Apple.
can look at prior to noon.
You have noon, buildings and grounds and resource center. 1 o'clock jail, law enforcement, 2 o'clock secondary roads, 3 o'clock county attorney.
The county attorney and I have switched,
Okay,
so it'll be me today instead of Eric.
okay, very good.
Super.
Filling in the gaps, auditor, drainage supervisors, clerk report, human services and district report.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
All ayes. Thank you.